Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Tsai back in the Toyota Solutions studio at Women in the World 2018, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by Bushra Aldukhainah, who is the Area Director of CARE Yemen. Yemen, as most of us should know, has been through years of civil war, but is often described, Bushra, as the war that people have forgotten. Thank you so much for your time, first of all.
Thanks for this great opportunity to bring up the Yemeni voice and to bring the attention to the people about what's going on in Yemen.
Let's talk first about the fact that you had to travel a long way to have your voice heard. You came all the way from Sana'a. You live 3 hours away from the capital. You have a son back at home.
Yep, that's right.
This in and of itself must have been a big sacrifice.
It has been a big sacrifice. The first thing when I got the invitation from the Women in the World 2 years back, and initially it didn't work. So my colleagues in CARE US, they have been working so hard to make this happen, along with our friends in Women in the World, and finally it's happening. So it has been really a struggle to bring me here, like getting the visa, coming all over here, leaving my son behind, my family and everything. In such circumstances, it's not an easy decision. So,
well, we want to give you plenty of time to talk about the situation in Yemen. You know, it's actually quite extraordinary to me to even be face to face with you, because I have been reading about the crisis in Yemen. It's a worsening humanitarian crisis, but it's so rare to see somebody get out of that country and to be able to see them face to face. You are a living witness of what is happening there. Why don't you start by just talking about the scope of the catastrophe there?
Sometimes I find this is really very difficult to start, because I really find it hard where to start from, because it's not something that we talk about, describe something. We describe a life and death that is like taking people and children like all over. It's like we talk about like the children and women who are dying from the airstrikes, who are dying from the cholera, who are dying from hunger, from the starving. I mean, Yemen is in the brink of famine, and we are talking about number like millions out of 27 million people in Yemen. There are 22.2 million that are in need. Can you imagine such a number? What kind of needs they need? Yeah. It's like,
and it's the entire country, right?
Country.
In Syria, there are actually pockets and in places where people are still able to get provisions and food and go shopping. Even the entire country sounds like it's in shambles.
Absolutely, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the minimum basic life services that people would need. Imagine like clean drinking water, people don't have access to, and that's why we have like the outbreak of cholera that has happened twice, and now we're expecting the third wave to happen this time. So,
what will spark the third wave?
Because the rains and no access to clean water.
So the rains,
hygiene services, like people don't have access to.
CARE is a global humanitarian organization. Have organizations like that been able to get supplies into the country?
Yes, there are like number of international organizations who are working in Yemen to provide the support to the Yemeni people, but
it's not enough.
It's not enough. We're talking about 22.2 million, and that is an increasing number. Like 6 months ago, it was 18 million, and now within 6 months we have 22.2, and within like few months, how much the number is going to be increased? We're talking about like massive increase.
You are obviously somebody that's charged with coordinating emergency assistance and helping displaced people, and yet you are an on-the-ground local person. Can we start with what has your family been dealing with since the start of the war? Are you at home now? Where are you living? And what are the conditions like to get food for your own family and your child?
That story started in 2015 when we had to leave our home behind and leave everything behind and just run for our lives. And then I had to move and live with my sister. We were living far away from them, like 3 hours drive. And at that time, before that, we used to provide like humanitarian assistance to the people who need, displaced people, like vulnerable people from the host communities. And we were trying to provide them the support. We were feeling so bad for them. We were feeling so sympathy, like you can imagine. I mean, if somebody would tell you that I've lost my house, I've lost like family members, I've lost this and that, you would feel so bad. But you get through all of this is something else. It's totally different. It's not like what you just keep telling the people.
During your time living in Yemen, I mean, Yemen has for a long time been considered one of the poorest countries in the world, and for sure in the Middle East.
Exactly.
Had you ever faced trials like this in your life?
And this is what makes it worse. Like, we were talking about one of the poorest countries in the Middle East, and all of this all together happening. Sometimes it's so hard to imagine, like, how can we afford? How much can we afford?
How do you wake up every morning? What drives you to keep going and to continue to help people?
That is really one of the biggest questions that I keep asking myself. And I have to really play a role model for everyone, because people rely on me, my family, my sisters, my staff, my colleagues. A lot of people, when they see me like doing this, they feel so encouraged that we should also be the same. We should also have the hope. We should give together, because if somebody would just think, okay, I will just give up. Everybody I think has his turning point in his life. And I had this when I decided, like, I have to take care of all these things, and I have to really be an inspiring to everybody around me, so everybody can keep going.
That's something that I think is so special about mothers, is they have this internal, and maybe parents, I should say in general, I give men their due as well, that they feel this need to protect.
Exactly.
And the survival mechanism
Exactly.
kicks in and it keeps you going. Can we talk a little bit about your son? And one of the things that occurs to me as you talk about the disease and the potential for famine is, does he have school? What's happening to education in Yemen?
Like Yusuf, as any other children, I mean, like, if we talk about the education, now we're talking only about life-saving support and assistance. There is no room for education, like talking about, oh, we had like dreams, we will take this and we will do this. We don't have this anymore. Like, most of the millions of children and mothers and brothers are thinking this way, because more than 3,500 schools has been damaged and completely.
So your son doesn't have a place to go to school?
Currently he goes to a private school, but education now is really a mess. It hardly can be called an education, because also in the government schools, teachers are not being paid for 2 years. Imagine somebody is going every day just to do his job and not being paid at the end of the month. How can he feed his family? How can he feed his children? How can he be able to even provide education to the students?
What about medical care and the needs there? I read that you yourself recently got over dengue fever. How bad was it?
It was really serious. I thought that was it. I thought it's my end when I had it. And I was feeling so bad, doubled, because first of all, I was feeling that it was really serious, that I thought it's going to be it. Although I have the medical access to go and financially to purchase the medicine I needed. But it was so painful also to think about the people we're working with and the people who had no access to the medical services.
So obviously, this is the Toyota Solutions studio, and we try to talk about solutions. This is a tough one when it comes to Yemen. It's a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, with the U.S. weighing in on one side and other great powers involved as well in a proxy sense. Peace in Yemen, does that seem like a possibility now?
If people want to, yes, it is a possibility.
What needs to happen?
It needs to stop all of this. They need to stop killing the innocent people. It needs, bringing everybody into the table and have serious solutions to end this up, because it's not going to happen by killing each other. It's going to happen by serious solutions, and to stop all of this of happening, because it's driving the whole entire generations to the I don't know where to.
Why do you think so much more focus is on other conflicts around the world, including the Syrian war? And why does Yemen seem to be ignored?
That's the question should be asked to the international community. Why Yemen is not being paid attention to? Why they know, everybody knows that Yemen used to be one of the poorest country before the conflict even. And now all of this happening all together at once. And it's 3 years so far, and we're entering to the 4th year and still ongoing. And everybody knows about it, they just don't want to talk about it. Otherwise, it should have like international community attention.
Mm-hmm. So before there is peace, there are immediate needs, essential needs, clearly from the people, from the 22 million people that you describe. What can people listening to this in the United States or around the world in safe places, what can they do to help?
There is a lot to help. First of all, they should advocate for peace in Yemen. The other thing is that they have to raise the awareness about what's going on and find serious solutions to stop this, and also help the international organizations like CARE by supporting, providing the humanitarian assistance.
You know, Bushra, we're in one of the most expensive cities in the world, in New York City, and we're surrounded by actually free food and beverage. I just wonder what it's like for you, if there's a culture shock for you to be in a place like this when you know what's happening back home.
That is heartbreaking, because when I see the people back there are literally dying, and when we do like the assessment to the people we work with, and when we ask them how many meals do you have per day, and some of them, they would say, we hardly had a piece of bread that has been shared for the entire family. It kills me.
I just want to go back to one of the stories I read as I was reading your story about your son and how he has been able to inspire you. There was something that he said to you early on that gave you even a greater sense of responsibility for doing more to help.
Exactly. Actually, he keeps inspiring me all over. The first thing when I had the invitation from the Women in the Word, and he was the first person to consult and to talk with, I asked him, what do you think? And I have been here to DC last year, and I was in the CARE National Conference, and I was explaining to him what's happening and what will I do, and what will be advocated to the people. And then when I told him, Yusuf, I have this invitation and I will talk about Yemen and reflect, he said, what has happened from last time?
Right.
I was like, I'm not sure what has happened or what was the result, but there is nothing other than trying.
Yeah.
He said, then keep trying.
Telling the story, I think, does chip away. And there are a lot of important journalists and women here that are hearing your voice. Bushra Aldukhainah, the area manager for CARE Yemen. Thank you so much, Bushra, and we wish you a safe journey home.
Thank you so much for having me here.